Address by the President.
Honourable members, welcome, and a very good morning to you and to all others present in the Council chamber on this, the 30th day of July 2024. The welcome and good morning wishes are also extended to all those who may be listening, have tuned their radios to SAMS Radio 1 to listen to the live broadcast of the proceedings of Minister's Question Time held today in this Honourable House. The focus for Minister's Question Time at this session is effective and enabling infrastructure. In accordance with Order 9, Rule 3 of the Standing Orders of Legislative Council, effective and enabling infrastructure is the topic that councillors have chosen for this meeting. In accordance with our standing orders also, the Chief Minister was made aware of the topic chosen ahead of this meeting, and an hour before Minister's Question Time commencing, the questions submitted by councillors were forwarded to ministers. Established practice has it that the order paper would be published on the SHG website on the morning of Minister's Question Time. Only 5 councillors are present at this morning's meeting. This is because one elected member resigned from council and she will hopefully be replaced at a poll in August. And the Honourable Gillian Brooks is abroad on personal business. The Minister, Martin Henry, should be arriving later. There are 5 questions on the order paper. As is usual, they have been listed in alphabetical order to be selected randomly for response. All of the questions are directed to the Minister for Safety and Home Affairs, Safety, Security and Home Affairs, because infrastructure falls within that minister's portfolio. Honourable members and members of the public are aware that standing orders were amended in respect of the number of supplementary questions that councillors may ask. The amendment makes it possible for other ministers to give support answering questions once the minister to whom the question has been put has acknowledged the original question. For those wanting to catch the speaker's eye, we operate a system whereby a red light is switched on to indicate that a member wishes to speak. Unless you are rising on a point of order or information, please don't draw the speaker's attention when someone else is speaking. That would interrupt that person, which is an infringement of Rule 15. The timekeeper and clerk for this meeting is Ms. Morgan Henry. First question, please.
The Honourable Ronald Coleman.
The Honourable Ronald Coleman. What's up? Minister Alec, do you wish to speak?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just a point of information.
Please don't keep pulling the thing up towards you. I've been told it could break. It should be okay to speak as it is, but it should be, just as it is now, it should be okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just on a point of information, Mr. Speaker, I note that all of these questions are actually directed to me, but infrastructure does not come under me, Mr. Speaker. It's mainly the maintenance of buildings that comes under me, and the roads infrastructure that come under me. But all the questions that I see in the order paper is actually about the EDA program, and the EDA program does not come under me, it comes under Minister Brooks. However, Mr. Speaker, I will endeavour to answer the questions as best as I can. And if I need assistance from my colleagues, I will ask for assistance from my colleagues in relation to this matter. But just going forward, just have it. Yes. There's nothing wrong. Have a chat with me concerning about infrastructure, and then I can direct to the appropriate people.
Yes, once you have acknowledged the question, then your colleagues can help you out if that needs to be the case. And thank you for informing us of what you have just done.
Thank you
very much. The Honourable Ronald Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honourable Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs tell this Council what progress has been made for the provision of a project to provide maintenance and improvements to our road networks.
Thank you. Honourable Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable friend for his question. Just to say, in respect of the roads network, as I've mentioned in previous former LegCos, there has been, I think, it's 6 million that we approved within the EDIP pipeline projects in terms of the road network. However, Mr. Speaker, again, we've given approval for that. The EDIP comes under Minister Brooks. However, what I will say is that we've been trying to be very proactive around this area. So what I have done is asked my team to submit a business case to see if we can bring the money forward and start utilising the money. As members will know, we have a slurry machine. It needs a certain amount of materials to be fed into it. It is being underused at this moment in time. So we are putting a business case forward, which I've discussed with my Minister Brooks. Whether that will be successful or not, I don't know, because it has to go through the EDIP process. But that's what we are doing from my side, Mr. Speaker, unless I can assist my friend any further.
Okay.
There's nothing more I can say.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you for being proactive. Minister Brooks, did you want to make any point at this time, or no? Thank you very much. Next question, please. Honourable Dr. Corinne Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Honourable Minister indicate whether EDIP funding will in fact cover maintenance?
Honourable Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable friend for a question. In terms of maintenance, there is a maintenance budget that we have. The purpose of the project money is to develop the road. So when we look at surfacing and infrastructure of the roads, there's the core infrastructure, means actually excavating certain parts of the road. So we have things like the sub-base and everything else in place to ensure that we got sound roads. But there are sound roads under Ireland in place. We just probably need to do the surfacing, and that's where the slurry machine comes in terms of the resurfacing of the road. So all that will be part of the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Corinne Essex. Councillor Essex.
Can the Honourable Minister clarify exactly what the content of the EDIP project will involve? Because you're referring again to maintenance and improvements being part of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister.
Like I said before, Mr. Speaker, I don't deal with the EDIP project. Business case was put forward some time ago for the 6 million. What I will say, we might not have that 6 million because of other projects. If other projects eat into the money, then be less for that amount of money. But I'll probably hand over to my honourable friend, Minister Brooks, who will be able to probably explain about the EDIP side of it.
Honourable Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the long and short of my honourable friend's question is, we just don't know. We've approved, as Minister Alex said, in the EDIP pipeline, some funding for road projects, but no justification business cases has come to the EDIP board as of yet. So we have no idea what is included in that. So I can't really go into any more detail than has already been given today.
Thank you very much. Councillor Essex.
I thank the Honourable Ministers for their responses. Can they please indicate an indicative time frame by which the necessary information will be submitted?
Ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank my honourable friend for the question. We can't give indicative times on anything like this. You've got an EDIP project going on. There are other projects in play. I don't know when those projects are going to be finished. All I've said previously is that I'm submitting or getting my staff to submit a business case to EDIP. Whether EDIP will approve it or not, I don't know if they will. So we've just started there, and that's going to take a bit of time because we've got to look at other priorities as well. I only have one officer who be able to deal with the business cases surrounding it, but I've got the officer dealing with a whole load of more issues at the moment. So, well, what I will note, what I did say to him, I need it done ASAP, and hopefully before the end of this year will be done.
Thank you, Minister. Councillor Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can either of the ministers say to what extent it is their intention to include either district or community roads within the proposed project, or if this is just for the main roads network?
Thank you. Ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister Alex.
Well, like I said to my honourable friend in relation to this here, we don't know how much it's going to be or whatever at this moment in time, but the main thing is we have to look at the main roads, the primary roads, and the secondary roads starting off. If there's more money, then it all depends. If sufficient money is there, then we will deal with it. But the priority has to be the primary and secondary roads at this time.
Thank you.
If there's more money outside of that and it's approval from Egypt, then we'll go from there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Councillor Schroer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the Honourable Minister just be able to clarify that there is still an ongoing road maintenance project, to do urgent repairs for like the ones carried out on Constitution recently and things like that, that we are not now just waiting for the EDIP funding and we're letting our roads degrade until to that stage?
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, we have a maintenance budget, and as you will know, I think it's like every month or so the roads inspector will send a report round to everyone so that they know that what roads they are focusing on in terms of priority. And I did brought this, well, you'll ask for it at one minister's question time, and I also did it on in-scope program as well as the priorities of the roads. But we do have, just to answer your question, we do have a maintenance budget.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
The Honourable Carl Thrower.
The Honourable Carl Thrower.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honourable Minister tell this Council what Pacific infrastructure improvements are planned to accommodate the changes in traffic patterns due to the Newport facility and to mitigate any potential increase to congestion in Jamestown, especially on Napoleon Street and the surrounding area?
Thank you very much. By Minister, I take it you mean Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said before, this is one of the conditions that the applicant had to discharge, and that's the EDIP team had to discharge these. So, again, there's Mr. Brooks. However, what I will do is tell you what has been done so far in respect of this here. From what I understand, is that a traffic management plan has been developed, and the officers are working on that. And then they will take it towards the chief planning officer for approval at some stage. I can't tell you anything more than that because I'm not really involved with that side of it, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Schroer.
Thank you. Can I ask if that project will then be tied in with broader projects such as the parking issues in Jamestown and things like that, which are outside of the scope of the original planning application?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I haven't seen the plan or anything else, like I said, so I can't really comment on that specific plan. All I know is that in terms of the parking issues, and that there is work being carried out at the moment by the police, and they've been to my advisory board in respect of some traffic management in terms of signage and so forth, as well as we also work with the fixed penalty notices, which will assist, as I understand it, with this traffic management plan, as well as future traffic management on St. Helena.
Thank you very much.
Again,
Thank you. No further questions. Next question, please.
The Honourable Andrew Turner.
The Honourable Andrew Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Honourable Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs tell this House what steps the St. Helena Government is taking to develop a fibre-to-home network following the cessation on St Helena, following the cessation of the commercial arrangement between the government and Maestro St Helena Limited.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister for my portfolio, no, we don't deal with this particular area, but I'll kindly ask Minister Brooks if he could assist in this area. Thank you.
Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I'll try to assist my colleague in answering this question. Yes, so after the project didn't come to fruition between SHD and Maestro, we sort of dropped hands and went on separate ways, so to speak. We are now looking at developing a new communications ordinance. We have a communications and network strategy in place, which has been agreed by the previous Executive Council and now this Executive Council. That will inform the drafting of the communications ordinance. As we know that we did approve an ordinance in this House, but it was never enacted. And then because of inconsistency through legal advice or technical advice, we were told that the ordinance that we did approve back in 2022 wasn't fit for purpose. So the legal teams wanted us to relook at that ordinance, and with the help of a technical expert, we are now drafting, or in the midst of drafting, a complete new ordinance, which still has to come to this House to be enacted and then hopefully approved by the governor. Approved and then enacted by the governor. Following that ordinance will dictate how the regulations should be set up, and the regulations will include a regulator, and the regulator will then obviously monitor and regulate whoever is the RSP going forward. But until that time that those soft infrastructure works are in place, we don't have a way forward in terms of actually delivering the fibre to the home. Although I will say our remit was always fibre speed to the home, not necessarily a cable being directly to the home, because we have to move, obviously, I know we've said this times, we will move with technology, and in essence of extra work and damage to environmental and all the rest of it, why dig up the streets when you can be in the signal? So we are very flexible in how we deliver this project, but we will stand by the commitment we make that we will have fibre speeds to the home. But I don't think I can go on any further to talk about this project, not until those various works are done, Mr. Speaker. So I think that's where we stand with that project. But it's just a shame that it didn't go as we intended with building our own network through the Maestro contract. And that was funded partly from EDIP. And as my Honourable Minister said, that some of the projects in EDIP is costing or running over the cost that it was estimated. So we do have concerns there. Plus, as I said, it was only part funded. Some of it was coming from our consolidated fund. And we all know the pressures that our consolidated fund is under and the commitments we all have to use, we're going to have to take going forward, which will mean that we will probably be depleting our consolidated fund if we don't find other means of funding. So with all that said, we have to sort of pause and just reflect on what is our advantage going forward, and what access to funding we have in means of delivering this fibre optic cable project.
Thank you very much. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to welcome that commitment to fibre speeds to the home. I think that's a very important one. But there are a few sort of follow-up questions based on the Minister's response there. The first one is, you mentioned that there had been advice on the 2022 ordinance that was passed in this House to say that it was not fit for purpose. Where did that advice come from?
Thank you very much. Minister Brooks.
Came from the AG's chambers.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. A further point of clarity. You mentioned there that there was sort of other pressures on the EDIP budget and that there had been a certain amount earmarked to come out of the consolidated fund, which of course has its own list of pressures coming up. So is that money still earmarked, or is that now going to be divided amongst other priorities?
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
At this time, ministers haven't made a decision on that, so I can't say for sure whether that money will still be earmarked for the project.
Thank you very much. Chief Minister?
With that said, Mr. Speaker, I do want to reassure the member, though, that getting this work done is on a timeline and is a priority to be completed before the tenure of this council, because we understand, obviously, at the moment, we all know that our current communications provider, their license is due to expire, so we understand we don't wish to be in a position where we have to extend on the current licensing. We would like to get the regulatory framework in place so that we can have a more robust communications network licensing going forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Turner?
Thank you there to the Chief Minister, who saved me one of my follow-up questions. Just one final one from me then. Is the overall strategic intention still to create an infrastructure that's owned by SHG so that we're not held to ransom by a telecoms provider over their infrastructure?
Thank you very much. Minister Brooks, I think.
Again, I think ministers haven't made a final decision on this, but we are clear that we want to have control over the network. That might be in a own all of it, or it might be through a sort of regulated type of arrangement. But it was quite clear from us coming into government and understanding the arrangement or the agreement or the license with the current ISP that we wanted to change that approach going forward, because from my personal view, it was heavily in the RSP sort of interest and not certainly in the government.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thrower, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Can the Minister confirm whether the £450,000 worth of equipment currently stored at Bradley's, which was brought based on the provision of the Maestro designed network, will now be utilised, or it won't be utilised?
Minister Brooks.
I'm not too sure on the figure that my honourable friend said, but there is quite a few £1,000s worth of equipment sitting at Bradley's that was bought for the Maestro contract, and yes, that equipment can be utilised in delivering a fibre network around the island.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thrower.
So, just to confirm, the figure is approximate. I think it was actually something around 452,000. I'm happy to supply the exact figures to the Minister, including about £70,000 worth of tools, which was ordered by SHG. There's also the question of the £100,000 payout to Maestro on March the 7th of this year on the completion of negotiations with them over the failure of that project. So my question is very simple. There's no network been designed. We've got £450,000 worth of equipment. How do you know that that equipment can be used in a network if you haven't designed the network?
Thank you very much. Minister Brooks.
Because, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the majority of that equipment is the actual cable, and the actual cable wouldn't change depending on what network design you approve in the end.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thrower.
Thank you very much. I will just say, the question is very simply, have you thought about the warranties on all that equipment, which is now over a year old? So a lot of it will be out of warranty when you start fitting it.
Thank you very much. Minister Brooks.
I don't have the information on what warranty we have with that equipment, so it will be unfair for me to answer that question. I'll leave it there, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say that no payment of £100,000 was made to Maestro. I just want to make sure that that doesn't go into the public domain. So, and just to add on to that is why this whole fibre to the home network and all the works in respect of how we go forward with our communications remains a priority for this government, because we really need the regulatory framework in place that will help to inform us whether we do need a owned network or whether the regulations will be strong enough to be able to put the robustness together to ensure that SHG has more control over the network or the communications network going forward.
Thank you, Honourable Chief Minister. Councillor Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the sake of clarity, can the Chief Minister or one of the ministers please state clearly what are the next steps to address these issues?
Thank you. Ministers?
In order, if possible, please.
Ministers, what are the next steps?
I thought Minister Brooks did that quite clearly before, whereby he talked about the work that's going on now to, obviously he's already said that what was passed in the House in 2022 was deemed unfit for purpose, so we've now done a review of that. That is now reaching completion. We understand by March, I think it is, of next year, that the ordinance, etc., need to be done so that we can ensure that the regulatory framework is in place by July of next year. Is that correct, Minister Brooks? I just want to make sure that the dates are right, but we are pushing hard to ensure that this is done, noting the timelines on the existing licence with the ISP. But Minister Brooks, if you want to clarify again, I by all means will let you do so.
Minister Brooks, can you assist?
I think probably for the benefit of the public, just to reassure that the current RSP's license runs out in December 25, and we will endeavour to have all the regulatory frameworks, the regulator, the ordinance, all of that approved and sort of implemented before the end of that date.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
The Honourable Dr. Corinda Essex.
The Honourable Dr. Corinda Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honourable Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs please state what level of priority St Helena Government attaches to construction of a new prison and explain why works have not yet commenced?
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, this is a needed project, Mr. Speaker, but I'll try and answer as best I can. In terms of priority, it is a top priority for this government. As people will know, the current prison isn't human rights compliant, and we really need to push on with this issue. The fact that it's not compliant also means that people have reduced sentences to take into account the condition of the prison, which isn't helpful in terms of justice. But what I can say, plans for a new prison are under development. It is anticipated that the design and supervised contract will be issued shortly. It's currently at the Attorney General's chambers. Once it comes from the Attorney General's chambers, the invitation to tender will go out to the public, Mr. Speaker. Based on the last information I had from one of the project managers, it is estimated that the completion of the prison should be 2028. However, I'm still not happy with that sort of date. We should be doing as much as we can and as quick as we can in order to get that prison completed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Minister. Councillor Essex.
Can the Honourable Minister please indicate how long the contract documentation has been with the Attorney General's chambers?
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would say about a week ago, it's been 2 weeks, sorry, it's been with the Attorney General's chambers. Far as I saw from one email short before, it should be going out for ITT. We just need a final word from the AG's office for the approval.
Thank you. Dr. Essex, Councillor Essex, beg your pardon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the relevant minister please indicate why it took so long to draw up the documentation before it was submitted to the Attorney General's chambers? Because this project has been on the books for ages.
Thank you very much, Ministers. Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll try to answer Dr. Essex's questions. There has been a round that was unsuccessful. When the prison project was put together, it was put together for a tender exercise to go out for a design and build. And the tender exercise failed. And as I think my honourable friends know in this room, when it fails, you have to go through all the procedures again. You have to develop new specs and get board approval. We did change the specs of the tender exercise to a design and supervise instead of design and build. So, yes, I think the delays has just been that it was a failed round. We had to go back through all the procedures again. Of course, obviously, we rely heavy on the AG's chambers in developing these tender exercises, and we all know the constraints that the AG's chambers continues to be under. So that's probably some explanation as to why it hasn't developed as quickly as we would like.
Thank you, Minister Brooks. Next question, please.
The Honourable Robert Midwinter.
The Honourable Robert Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can the Honourable Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs tell this Council what consideration has been given to ensuring that persons with disabilities will be able to fully access all of the amenities being developed within the Rupert's Port area? And Mr. Speaker, I meant to declare an interest there as a member of the SHAPE Board of Directors.
Noted. Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable friend for his question. Again, in respect of this is a needed project. I have no dealings with that. However, this was brought to the government, and the Honourable Chief Minister will probably elaborate for me on that later on. In terms of the disabilities and that, yeah, I think that's all part of the building regulations in any case. But we did also approve further monies to allow for a lift within one of the buildings. Outside of that, I'll have to ask my honourable friends if they can assist me in terms of this here. Like I said, as a government collectively, we did approve further monies and changes in respect of the Rupert's development. But as for the details and so forth, I don't sit on any boards or anything relating to Rupert's. In respect of Rupert's and all the development in terms of port and roads, I will only become responsible and accountable once EDIP hands it over to my portfolio.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And from sitting on various EDIP boards, including the Rupert's project in R2, I can confirm that the Rupert's port facilities will be full compliant to the disabled requirements.
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it is important because I know that the change now to the development application, we had an open session last Tuesday, in which we discussed the development application for the PCB and I can never remember the names of the CFS, yes. Anyway, now it will be used as a more permanent building for staff, and from doing those amendments, what it had already been approved to have disabled access to it, but it was never really taken forward, and there was concern raised by this government as to how that had been allowed to continue. Thankfully now, because of the amendments, it does make the whole of the Rupert's Port area disabled friendly. So I'm hoping that will be music to the Honourable Robert Midwinter's ears.
Thank you very much. Councillor Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And indeed it is, because, Mr. Speaker, as the Chief Minister has said, I did note that it wasn't previously fully compliant in that respect, the previous designs, but now the ones that have recently been considered by EXCO have actually met that. So, Mr. Speaker, and it's probably better to direct this to the Chief Minister, within the vision and strategy, it states that effective infrastructure means that we live in well-designed, sustainable places where we can all access the amenities and services we need, and note my emphasis on all there, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister confirm that it is a matter of SHG policy to include disabled access and facilities within all new buildings?
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we all know the restrictions that we have on St. Helena because there's a lot of older buildings, and obviously making them all disabled friendly is not always the easiest thing, but I know you've mentioned all new buildings. So obviously as part of the planning, I know Minister Sipiu, who is responsible for planning, is very keen that all new buildings will be disabled friendly.
Thank you very much. Councillor Midwinter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's again good to hear that. But noting that the port buildings did not previously contain certain amenities, can the Minister for Safety, Security and Home Affairs confirm that disabled access and amenities have been included in the designs for the new prison?
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister Alec.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, my understanding is that they are in there. Like I said, I don't actually be involved with any of this. My honourable friend, Minister Brooks, he sits on all the boards and everything else. I don't get all that information. But like I said, we did approve that as a collective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Midwinter.
Mr. Speaker, again, I'd like to thank the Honourable Minister for his response, and because he said he understands that there have been, it would be good if we can have confirmation outside of this session, noting that it wasn't included originally in the port building, that has actually been included. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister Alec, can you give confirmation?
So, Mr. Speaker, like I said before, I will not be accountable or responsible for those buildings until buildings are completed and then commissioned and then handed over to myself. Therefore, Minister Brooks will probably be able to give you confirmation rather than myself. Thank you.
Can the Minister who will be accountable give a response, please?
Yes, I can give assurance that once we have the final detailed plans of the prison, that we will make sure it is inclusive for disability.
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just think I need clarity around these buildings within the port because there's some people who are frowning in the room, and I can tell you that the disabled access for these buildings, it was in the original, but it wasn't strategically costed, and there was no cost for the lifts, etc. So now, because of the changes that is being made by this government, the costing and the layout allows for disabled access for the ground floor and the first floor.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Minister, for explaining that.
Mr. Speaker, if I may rise on a point of information there, because the plans that I saw certainly did not include disabled toilets on the first floor of the building, only on the ground floor, which then meant that the building would only have accommodated visitors to the building and not people working in the building, which is the point that I'm trying to make here, Mr. Speaker. We have a policy within Central Helena Government that we will do not discriminate on basis of disability. However, if we do not include facilities for disabled people to be able to work in those buildings, we are discriminating. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Understood. Thank you very much. Honourable Minister Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to reassure my honourable friend that having seen the new plans, that there is facilities on the first and ground floor of both facilities for disabled people. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. If there are no further supplementary questions, honourable members, that then concludes.
Sorry.
Oh, I do beg your pardon, Councillor Thrower. Councillor Thrower.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to rise on a piece of information. I've now found the document that has the cost that I referred to earlier. So this is a document that was forwarded by Maestro to me. It says cable fibre optic for main spine distribution network OLT active equipment, £403,496,000. Tools and installation equipment purchased, £70,437. Poles, £34,800. So I just wanted to clarify that is the document that was forwarded by Maestro, and that is the equipment that should be up at Bradley's. Thank you.
So that document was forwarded to whom?
It was forwarded to myself for presentation to the PCA, which has been done by Maestro. I met with Maestro, just for clarity, I met with Maestro when I was at the Westminster seminar in the UK, which is where all the information came. I've also got copies of several of the documents.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you want to take any of that into consideration, Honourable Ministers. Chief Minister.
All I'll say is we haven't cited this documentation, neither am I. We're going to make a comment about it. We've obviously part ways with Maestro at this present time, and I don't really understand at this time. I wouldn't want to make a comment on it, if I can put it that way. We are, I think Minister Brooks made it very clear that where we can utilise the investment already made in taking the communications network forward, we will. It is unfortunate, as Minister Brooks said, that it had to come to this, but that's been done now, and we need to utilise as much as we can of the investment when we know the way forward for our communications networks in the best interest of St Helena, I may add.
Okay, thank you very much. Honourable Minister Brooks.
Just to say, Mr. Speaker, I am in possession of an infantry list of all the equipment at Bradley's. I don't have the list in front of me, so I can't compare it to the list that my honourable friend has read out, but we know what's out there. So regardless what information you have received from Maestro, officers been out there and physically counted every item out there and listed on a infantry list for this government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Troyer.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I think that the point of interest, really, I think the problem with this is, in light of what the Minister says, as a former network engineer who used to specialise in large-scale network design, you never purchase stuff before you've designed a network. The question really isn't about whether screw A and screw B is on site. The question is, why did we spend so much money on systems that have never been designed? You wouldn't order a car before you know how many people you need to transport. And that's exactly what you've done with nearly £500,000 of the government's money.
Thank you very much. I think we might just leave it there and go no further forward, other than, Honourable Chief Minister, did you want to make a comment?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for making that suggestion, because I think we're literally getting into something at the moment that has nothing to do with the topic of today. It's specific now to a, dare I say, failed project at that time, and we, as I said before, we will try and utilise everything that was invested to take the network forward. So, we are not technical experts here as ministers, and we haven't been given the concern hasn't been raised that the investment is wasted.
Thank you very much. Councillor Essex, I'll allow you one question.
It's not a question, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to rise on a point of information.
Please do.
The Honourable Carl Thrower indicated that the information that he was quoting had been shared with PAC. As a member of PAC, I would like to inform this House and the listening public that that has not yet reached PAC.
It's been given to the Chair.
It may have been given to the Chair, but it has not reached PAC as a whole.
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. I think we will leave it there. Honourable members, that then concludes Minister's Question Time meeting for July. Thank you very much for your very valuable contributions. Thank you also to those in the public who took opportunity to listen to the live proceedings. We hope that you found the questions by councillors and answers provided by ministers relating to effective and enabling infrastructure both interesting and informative. Hopefully some of the questions you wanted answers were among those dealt with, and you are now better informed. We look forward very much to your feedback. In closing, I would like to thank SAMS for broadcasting the proceedings live. All being well, they will be rebroadcast. I wish you all a very pleasant day ahead. Thank you all very much.